Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng speculated that even though the mind of the original universe was beyond all the conflicts, it would still be angered if a great being did something wrong. And it wanted to kill those great beings. However, even if it wanted to kill someone, it couldn't do it by itself. It was obvious that it needed great beings' help to kill Yuan Ao Master, and the three conniving Universe Supreme Masters. It meant that even the original mind, which was invincible and superior, needed to follow some rules. Even Teacher Origin, who went against the original mind, was only eternally suppressed by the original mind, Luo Feng thought. Other than that, I haven't heard that the original mind wanted anyone dead. It runs on pure instinct. After contemplation, Luo Feng was far less intimidated by the original mind. My job is to tell you what happened, said Doubleface Ancestral God with a smile. I'm just here to tell you who conspired and led to the death of Huge Axe Creator. You humans can decide what to do. We can't force you to do anything. Secretly, Luo Feng sneered. It wasn't because the ancestral gods couldn't force them, as even the original mind couldn't force the humans. However, the humans couldn't overlook such hostility, even if they couldn't quickly avenge Huge Axe Creator. Thank you, Doubleface Ancestral God, said Luo Feng. It's indeed important to us humans. I'll show myself out. Luo Feng got up, intending to leave. Doubleface Ancestral God stood up and showed Luo Feng out. Luo Feng then went back to his place and left through God Country transportation. In the primal secret region of the human territory. Hong. Long. Long. The tumbling waves of remote ocean surged. Some of the waves were 1,000,000 kilometers tall. After the fight hundreds of years ago, Luo Feng had left his remote ocean here. There was a pinnacle soul true treasure hidden in remote ocean. Its godly power with Duan Mie and the pinnacle soul true treasure could resist any attacks under level 10. The humans had captured more than 200 Universe Masters last time, significantly weakening the United Forces alliance. Even if the United Forces used all their power to attack again, it could barely reach level 9. Besides, after getting the inheritance from Purple Moon Ancestor, the Freedom Alliance didn't have any motivation anymore, and they had lost half their Universe Masters. They wouldn't have any benefits, and it would be dangerous for them to get in a fight. How could they agree to fight their friends? That was why the United Forces Alliance could only use around 400 Universe Masters. It wasn't a threat. Teacher. Luo Feng stepped on the space and flew to the highest level of the towering main palace. Primal Chaos City Leader was leaning against the handrail and looking to Luo Feng. Are you practicing? Why are you here? Primal Chaos City Leader smiled. Doubleface Ancestral God, just talk to me, said Luo Feng. The original mind told him to give me some important information, so I had to come here and see you. The original mind told the ancestral gods to give you information. That original mind, Primal Chaos City Leader, was shocked. What kind of information? Doubleface Ancestral God told me that 3 beings conspired to kill Huge Axe Creator, said Luo Feng. Primal Chaos City Leader was shocked. His godly body shook. Who? From the first universe era, said Luo Feng. Great Thunder Star Master, Zhenjiao Emperor, and Dragon Rock Ancestral God. Primal Chaos City Leader's lips quivered. He was whispering the names. He clenched his fist, twisting the space and time around him, and his eyes glinted fiercely. Belligerence, hatred, and an urge to kill all rushed through his mind. Compared to Luo Feng, he had been far much more devastated by Huge Axe's death. Luo Feng was grateful that Huge Axe had helped him before, but they were not close, as they hadn't talked with each other much. As for Primal Chaos City Leader, it was different. Both he and Huge Axe had followed Teacher Origin, and Huge Axe was like a brother to him. After Teacher Origin was suppressed, the burden of the humans had fallen on Huge Axe and Primal Chaos City Leader. They were closer than brothers. Teacher Origin and Huge Axe had been closer to Primal Chaos City Leader than anyone else in the human race. Teacher Origin had been like a father, while Huge Axe had been like a big brother. Great Thunder Star Master. Junjiao Emperor. Dragon Rock Ancestral God. They all deserve to die. Primal Chaos City Leader spat the words out of his mouth. Teacher, Luo Feng realized his teacher's mood was out of control. I'm okay. Primal Chaos City Leader suppressed his desire to kill. Relax. I know these 3 Universe Supreme Masters are more difficult to deal with than those in the original universe. Huge Axe Creator chose not to name them because he didn't want us to suffer losses. However, we'll avenge Huge Axe one way or another. Just not now. Luo Feng nodded. Primal Chaos City Leader closed his eyes. It seemed that he had successfully suppressed his emotions. He then opened his eyes and started another topic. Luo Feng, you've been practicing for hundreds of years, so I didn't bother you, but I need to tell you what happened in the past few hundred years. Please do, teacher, said Luo Feng. The Hong Alliance has better policies now, said Primal Chaos City Leader. There are greater benefits from joining the Hong Alliance, and those who betray the Hong Alliance will be heavily punished. The unity of the Hong Alliance is growing stronger, and even 12 Universe Masters from the Freedom Alliance joined the Hong Alliance. Luo Feng looked pleased. It was true. Anyone with eyes could see that the unity on the human team was better, yet the united forces formed only a loose alliance. The humans had greater potential, and with the attraction of more benefits, it was natural that Universe Masters opted to join. Besides, Purple Moon Holy Land offered the inheritance to the Freedom Alliance and the United Forces Alliance, said Primal Chaos City Leader. It's widely spread. Some of the Universe Masters in the Hong Alliance are from the race with those in Freedom Alliance. Some Universe Masters from the Freedom Alliance share the inheritance with those from the same race, and they share it with us. Luo Feng's eyes gleamed. Which means we get the inheritance from the Purple Moon Holy Land, too, said Primal Chaos City Leader. Actually, Purple Moon Holy Land was already prepared for us to know the inheritance. How is the inheritance? Asked Luo Feng. It's very detailed and comprehensive, said Primal Chaos City Leader. It's indeed 10 times better than the information we prepared for the other races. Of course, it's nothing compared to yours. Luo Feng nodded. The inheritance he had obtained was incredibly detailed, from machine type to valuable making stream to other streams. The memory stones from Duandong River contained incredible information, yet Luo Feng had only extracted a little bit, providing the other races with a simplified version. It was nothing compared to what the humans had. Based on what Purple Moon Holy Land provided, we can give a bit more to lure the other races, said Primal Chaos City Leader. It's very unlikely for someone to become a Universe Supreme Master from a Universe Master, so it's okay to give them the information. Besides, with time going by, and with the systematic training provided to humans, there will be a great number of Universe Knights, and even Universe Masters. Humans will soon grow stronger and stronger, and there will be more beings as powerful as Teacher Origin, or beings who can transcend incarnation. Our status will be very stable. Luo Feng nodded. If the humans were advancing quickly, they needed to help out their subsidiaries as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be loyal to the humans. By the way, how was the practicing in the past several centuries? Asked Primal Chaos City Leader. It's going great. Luo Feng couldn't help expressing his joy. Primal Chaos City Leader nodded with satisfaction. He knew that this disciple of his was always sensational when he truly showed his power, although he normally remained low-key. If he said it was going great, it meant he had gained a lot. Do you have a plan to become a Universe Supreme Master? Asked Primal Chaos City Leader. Yes, but it's very difficult. Luo Feng exclaimed. Of course, he had a plan. Regarding law comprehension and techniques, he was already at the pinnacle of Universe Masters. After all, it was already incredible for Universe Masters to be able to create merged Supreme techniques, yet Luo Feng created a Universe Supreme Master level technique, Nirvana Incarnation, and he had perfect godly power. He was able to break into a universe supreme master. However, this was beyond difficult. In the past few hundred years, hundreds of eras in the space of inheritance, his greatest accomplishment had been understanding Star Tower better. Luo Feng was full of joy every time he thought of Star Tower. It was, after all, the most mysterious true treasure he possessed and had proven incredible beyond his expectations. When he was still weak, he hadn't found it to be special. But after getting stronger, especially after the war hundreds of years ago, he had found a highlight of Star Tower. After hundreds of eras of comprehension, he had discovered that the highlight was only a small part of Star Tower. It was an exceptional and extraordinary true treasure. The stronger his power grew, the more he learned of its functions. It's remarkable. It's much more precious than Shawu Wing. Based on the broken memories, Shawu Wing was used by a being much mightier than true gods. As for Star Tower, it was already enough to beings at that level. How did Teacher Sitting Mountain Guest create a true treasure at that level? Luo Feng found it hard to believe. In his opinion, Universe Supreme Masters, true gods, wouldn't be able to create Star Tower. Teacher once said something unexpected happened when he was making it, Luo Feng thought. Is it because of that? Besides, Teacher created the Flame God race, but they failed him, so he later created the Earthlings. What does Teacher Sitting Mountain Guest want? Luo Feng felt that everything about Teacher Sitting Mountain Guest was mysterious. 9-volume manual was exceptional, and Sitting Mountain Guest was the only one known to be able to create a manual like that. For what it's worth, I owe Teacher Sitting Mountain Guest big time. If he needs my help, I'll do everything I can to help him. Luo Feng thought. I'm already powerful enough, and there's nothing to be afraid of. I'll wait until the day Teacher Sitting Mountain Guest comes to ask me for help. After several eras of practicing, he understood much more about Star Tower, and he was also pondering how to become a Universe Supreme Master. He had 4 bodies now. If he followed the normal route of law evolution, his god country would become a miniature universe, while all the bodies would be combined into one. After combining into the original Earthling body, 99% of the godly power in remote ocean would return back to the original universe. Luo Feng couldn't allow that to happen. Fortunately, he had the inheritance from Duandong River, so he knew exactly what he should do to avoid it. I can only follow another path, a more difficult path, and a path to be more powerful, thought Luo Feng. I will start with my godly body and break the laws with my strength, after which I'll become a true god. Only by doing that can my godly body absorb all the godly power, holding it in my endless remote ocean. My remote ocean is too enormous, thought Luo Feng. It's already huge like this now, and with time going by, it'll be measured in light years in the future. It's incredible to have such an enormous godly power even in the inheritance of the ancient civilization. If I want to merge it into a soul godly body, I need to attain at least a gene level of 90,000 times. Starting from godly power, using strength to break through the laws, and becoming a true god in the end, there were different levels, certainly. The perfect life gene level in the original universe was 10,081 times. Once someone broke this limit, such as by reaching a life gene level of 11,000 times, they could change their god country into a miniature universe in the blink of an eye. Of course, the improvement in power was negligible when making a breakthrough like this. Based on the documents about inheritance from Duandong River, those who became true gods with a life gene level under 30,000 times and followed the law path couldn't experience a substantial change in their power. 30,000 to 60,000 times was the first level. 60,000 to 90,000 times was the second level. 90,000 to almost 100,000 times was the third level. These were the 3 levels of godly power path. At the first level, godly bodies would be 10 times larger. For example, those with godly bodies 100,000 kilometers tall would become 1,000,000 kilometers tall, which meant the godly power would be 1,000 times more. Besides, this advantage would stay forever, even after surpassing true gods. At the second level, godly bodies would become 1,000 times taller. For example, humans could become 100,000 kilometers tall. It was most difficult to reach the third level. After all, in the documents of Duandong River inheritance, nobody had ever reached a life gene level of 100,000 times. The best they could do was to get close to it. 90,000 times was already an incredible threshold. When someone reached this level, they could have flexible sizes of bodies and unlimited godly bodies. It was true. Unlimited godly bodies and limitless volumes. Godly power decided volumes. The more godly power one had, the larger one's volume would be. Of course, after becoming a true god, one's godly power storage would be fixed. There was only a limited amount of godly power. Even the origin of the original universe couldn't give all its power to one being. When becoming a universe supreme master from a universe master, the original universe could only help turn a god country into a small universe. As for godly bodies, for ordinary universe masters, they followed the law path, and after making their breakthrough and becoming a universe supreme master, they would use miniature universes and turn chaos energies into godly power to supply themselves. Then they would become universe supreme masters with life gene levels of 10,000 times. The limit of the first level is 1 million kilometers tall, the limit of the second level is 100 million kilometers tall, and the third level has limitless volume, Luo Feng thought. However, it's only a theoretical limit. One needs to swallow godly power for its godly body to become larger. Those at the first two levels might be able to swallow the godly power from the universe origin, but at the third level. Luo Feng shook his head. The original universe could only supply a limited amount of godly power, and after a while, it would stop. Otherwise, 9 remoteness ocean would have grown larger. In the ancient civilization, if an inheritor could reach the life gene level of 90,000 times, the previous inheritors would prepare an enormous amount of valuables to store the godly power for the juniors to absorb so they could form godly bodies with great godly power storage. However, we can't get those kinds of valuables in this civilization anymore. Fortunately, I have remote ocean for me to absorb. I need to reach a life gene level of 90,000 times so I can have all the power in remote ocean. There were 3 levels of the godly power path. And it was almost impossible to attain the third level. It was already a miracle for 1 out of 10,000 universe masters to succeed on the godly power path, and it was a greater miracle that 1 out of 10,000 true gods, who succeeded on the godly power path reached the third level. The inheritors of Duandong River could all succeed on the godly power path with the inheritance they had. However, only 2 had reached the third level, and luck was required in both cases. Though it's very difficult for me to reach the third level, I still have a chance, Luo Feng thought. For one thing, I have the inheritance from Duandong River. For another, I have the space of inheritance. I can practice there, where time passes by 10,000 times faster. It was a luxury to be able to practice in a place where time passed 10,000 times faster than the outside, as it was against the rules of space and time. The longer a great being practiced under accelerated time, the higher the price he needed to pay. When Luo Feng was practicing in Beast God Sector, Space Beast Ancestor had only agreed because he was still weak. When the great beings were fighting for the inheritance from Duandong River, the powers had only allowed them to be trained there for a short period of time, because the inheritance from Duandong River was at stake. This acceleration was a robbery of the origin of the miniature universe. It already placed great pressure on universe masters to do so, and if a universe supreme master did so, it would consume much more power. Nobody dared to do it for a long time. I practice in my space of inheritance while I can maintain in the accelerated time. Besides, my remote ocean body also has an inherited technique, creation. Remote ocean had 2 inherited techniques, ocean transformation and creation. And once it performed the second technique, it could analyze the fundamental characteristics of many life forms and eventually even create life forms. 9 Remoteness Master had been able to create an entire race, and he was only a universe master. Even universe supreme masters weren't able to create an entire race, yet 9 Remoteness Master had managed to do that. Luo Feng was able to do that as well. It was based on his inherited technique, creation. Based on the inheritance from the ancient civilization, inherited techniques that can analyze the foundation of life forms and create life forms are the best for studying life genes. With this technique, I have higher hopes of reaching a life gene level of 90,000 times. I've already had plenty of help, so I need to make my own efforts now. All the previous inheritors had help from inheritors before them. However, only 2 of them had attained a life gene level of 90,000 times. Luo Feng needed to study all the life forms in the original universe: plant life forms, flesh and blood life forms, metal life forms, rock life forms, energy life forms, and so on. Other than those living beings, he also needed to study lifeless objects in the universe like materials, rocks, fruits, and strange objects. He needed to study billions of life forms and objects. It was a path where he needed to devote endless time and energy and study countless lives and material. He needed to find a way to enhance his godly power. He even needed to find the corpses of many great beings. Difficult. 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 Luo Feng was certain he could become a true god following the godly power path, but he couldn't guarantee he could reach a life gene level of 90,000 times. There was only a chance. I'll strive for it, as there is a chance, thought Luo Feng. If I can't reach a life gene level of 90,000 times before this universe era ends, I'll immediately make the breakthrough and become a true god no matter what. For what it was worth, it was easy for him to have a life gene level over 10,000 times before this universe era ended. I need to go to Universe Ocean and gather many strange objects and life forms now, Luo Feng thought. Only by looking into the foundations of life forms from varying angles could he advance on the godly power path. Luo Feng and Primal Chaos City Leader stood in front of the handrail. "Teacher," said Luo Feng, "I'm going to Universe Ocean." Universe Ocean. Primal Chaos City Leader looked at Luo Feng. "Yes. I want to become a Universe Supreme Master, so I need to gather lots of strange objects," said Luo Feng. Primal Chaos City Leader was astounded. "Why do you need strange objects to be a Universe Supreme Master? Strange objects are only under Supreme True Treasures, and they are rare." "Teacher, I don't mean that kind of strange object." Luo Feng smiled. "I mean things that are special, not necessarily true treasure weapons. I just need them to be special. Even a special rock will suffice." You, Primal Chaos City Leader, had been told lots of information about the inheritance before, and he was surprised. "Are you following the godly power path?" "Yes." Luo Feng nodded. "Based on the inheritance from the ancient civilization, it's very difficult to follow the godly power path." Primal Chaos City Leader couldn't help asking, "Do you want your remote ocean?" "That's right. I don't want to give it up." Luo Feng nodded. "From now on, my original body and golden horned beast body will stay in Universe Ocean. My Mosha body and remote ocean body will stay in the original universe, and I'll leave 2 ancient god eyes here. They are enough to cover everything." Primal Chaos City Leader nodded. Staying in Universe Ocean for a long time. This disciple of his was indeed determined. However, it required great perseverance to follow the godly power path. "My ultimate goal is a life gene level of 90,000 times, thought Luo Feng. Only 2 inheritors succeeded from Duandong River inheritance, one of the best inheritances from the ancient civilization. I can't succeed without putting forth all my efforts. Okay, you may go." Primal Chaos City Leader nodded. "Adventure through Universe Ocean all you want. You have Star Tower and Boat of Mausoleum, so you have a better chance to survive extreme dangers. You also need to keep an eye on those 3 conspirators who led to Huge Axe's death. Please figure out why they wanted him dead. After all, there was no benefit from Huge Axe's dying. On the contrary, they might be in danger. I think there's something else going on behind this." "Okay." Luo Feng nodded. "It also has to do with the original mind, which told us through the ancestral god school. They seem to want us to kill those 3. Even the original mind is involved, now. I think there's a huge scheme behind this." Primal Chaos City Leader nodded and said, "Even though you're on it, you should be more cautious with your own well-being. Don't worry. Luo Feng smiled. Teacher, I'll go to Universe Ocean now. Primal Chaos City leader nodded. He then watched Luo Feng fly away and disappear within the vast void space outside the universe boat. A 9-story tower was advancing very quickly, and its extremely high speed left a dazzling tail of light in its trail. Within the tower, Luo Feng had blood ghost blade slung across his back, as he looked far ahead into the distance at the towering yet damaged universe boat. Starting today, he whispered, I shall spend the majority of the next couple years roaming about the 3 most dangerous lands of the universe ocean. I am no longer the Luo Feng of yesterday. Now, I have become a universe master. After countless eras of submerging myself in cultivation, albeit discreetly, my strength has greatly increased. There is no need for me to act in secret anymore. Many universe masters had stayed around the peripheral region of universe boat for a long time, but most of them were only at the 3rd to 4th tier standard. Look, the supreme true treasure, Star Tower. It's Star Tower from the primal universe. I heard that internally, the primal universe is divided into 2 big factions. The United Forces camp and human camp are engaged in an unprecedented, ultimate war. One from the human camp is Milky Way Horde leader, who has taken out Star Tower. Now that the situation within the primal universe has stabilized, Milky Way Horde leader actually drove Star Tower here to Universe Boat. Star Tower has stood in the primal universe for such a long time, but no one has managed to get it to recognize a master. Who would have expected it to finally fall into the hands of Milky Way Horde leader? Besides, this Milky Way Horde leader was also the one who had received the inheritance of the pulse of Duandong River. Milky Way Horde leader is simply too lucky. Why don't I have such good luck? Luo Feng had no intentions of hiding at all. On board Star Tower, he had charged his way into Universe Boat. Of course, he would have gathered a sizable crowd of onlookers. Reporting to our race ancestors. The human, Milky Way Horde leader, Luo Feng, from the Primal Universe era, has just entered the Universe Boat on board Star Tower. True Masters. Luo Feng has entered Universe Boat. Ancestor, Milky Way Horde leader, has just entered the Universe Boat on board his Star Tower. Just only. How fast did news spread in Universe Ocean? In just one day, the news had spread to all 3 reincarnation eras and the 2 holy lands. After all, since Luo Feng had received the inheritance of the pulse of Duandong River, he had become a moving treasure in the eyes of various groups of top powers within the entire Universe Ocean. Who would not covet Luo Feng's inheritance? The only thing was, they did not have the ability to obtain it. Once where Luo Feng had been besieged by a group of Universe Supreme Masters, every single one of them had released an outburst of combat power at the 7th to 8th tier level. There were even some who had released an outburst of 9th tier combat power. When all of these were combined, the force was so powerful that even Teacher Origin might not have been able to resist it. But at the time, it was not even enough to make Boat of Mausoleum to budge. That was when they all knew that by using brute force alone, there was no way they could get that inheritance from Luo Feng. But this time around, he had chosen to bring Star Tower into Universe Boat instead. This made them all doubtful of his intentions. The human camp had just stabilized, and Star Tower, an important combat power, was actually brought out into the Universe Ocean. And so openly, at that. Seems like Luo Feng is very confident about the strength of the human camp. All Universe Masters of my race shall obey this command. Do not provoke Luo Feng. Keep your distance, and if you see him from a distance, be sure to steer clear of his path. Transmit my command. No Universe Masters shall provoke Luo Feng. Luo Feng, who was on board Star Tower, entered Universe Boat. As he made his way into the deeper region of Universe Boat, not a single great being dared to provoke him. After all, those who did were normally Universe Supreme Masters, and Universe Supreme Masters were mostly gathered in the core, or at least at the peripheral area of the core. As for Universe Masters, for now, all the groups of top powers within the Universe Ocean knew that Luo Feng had a palace-type supreme true treasure, Star Tower. When Star Tower executed its swallowing technique, only those who were at least at the 6th tier, as the top-level power could resist. Normal universe masters who hid a good distance away would be spared, but the moment they were near, they would be swallowed by Star Tower right away. Secondly, Luo Feng had a soul impact treasure. There were sayings that only those with willpower, at the level of a universe supreme master, would be able to resist. Otherwise, anyone else would not be able to put up any resistance before Luo Feng. These two factors alone made all the universe masters from the groups of top powers extremely fearful of Luo Feng. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, Luo Feng had been in universe boat for 300 years. He might have been strong, but his speed was still unable to exceed the limit of 100 times light speed. So if he wanted to make it to the secret chamber within the space of the Scion token, he would still need close to 700 years to arrive at his destination. While many universe masters of the various groups of top powers had been on tenterhooks when Luo Feng first appeared within the universe ocean, now, they were no longer so worried. In the beginning, they had been afraid that Luo Feng would initiate an orgy of killing. After all, the ancestral god, I was only capable of facing one direction at any one time. It was limited in terms of distance affected, but it was still considerably far. The combination of the ancestral god, I and Star Tower was an absolute nightmare for the universe masters. If they were to accidentally encounter Luo Feng, there was no way they would have time to escape. When some universe masters accidentally bumped into the approaching Star Tower, they were all scared out of their wits. Without second thoughts, they took off in another direction. However, when Star Tower passed them, it did not attack. Initially, they felt relieved. With the passing of time, especially after more than 300 years had passed, even when Luo Feng crossed paths with any of the universe masters, he still made no move to attack. This had put the majority of the universe masters at ease. I am no fool. Standing in the hall of Star Tower, looking out at the endless blazing flames, Luo Feng smiled to himself. I may have the ability to kill and capture these universe masters. I may even be more skillful than most of the universe supreme masters, but if I were to kill mindlessly, I would make enemies all over the place. Making enemies everywhere, thought Luo Feng. That, I am not scared of. But it would subsequently bring harm to my human race and the Hong Alliance. The various groups of top powers of the universe had once joined forces to attack the boat of Mausoleum, but at that time, everyone had attacked one another, so there had been no loss on any side. Therefore, it had not resulted in a feud. Some great beings could still continue to maintain close friendships with Luo Feng. But if he were to go on a rampage, killing universe masters of other races, and there were universe masters who were annihilated as a result, then hatred and enmity would arise. When he had fought against the other races, so long as there were no injuries, he could still join forces with these other races to fight others if the need arose. But if the opposing side annihilated Ice Mountain Master, or Primal Chaos City Leader, Luo Feng would be red-eyed with anger. The same theory applied. If he had gone on a rampage, killing mercilessly, he would have made enemies everywhere he went. By then, the universe masters whose abilities were a notch weaker, like Longyang Master and Remote Lord Master, would have trouble making their way about Universe Ocean. Of course, Luo Feng would never allow himself to take such a foolish course of action. I have been in the outside world for over 300 years, and in the space of cultivation, for more than 300 eras, Luo Feng said to himself. Comprehending Star Tower has brought me to my current ultimate limit. The second volume of Extermination, one of 3 sets of lost knowledge, is too difficult. I have yet to master it. But I have gained a lot from Star Tower, which is more than enough. Before the battle, he was only able to comprehend the first 3 layers of secret engravings of Star Tower. For an ordinary supreme true treasure, the 3rd layer would normally reach the 6th tier, as the top level of combat power. The 4th layer of secret engravings would reach the 7th tier, as the top level of combat power. The 5th layer of secret engravings would reach the 8th tier, as the top level of combat power. The 6th layer of secret engravings would reach the 9th tier, as the top level of combat power. This was huge Axis level. The 7th layer of secret engravings would reach the 10th tier, as the top level of combat power. This was Teacher Origins level. However, some supreme true treasures might not have a seventh layer of secret engravings on them. The classification of an ability could usually be determined this way. But Star Tower was different. The first 3 layers of Star Tower were still considered normal, where the third layer was at the 6th tier, as the top level of combat power. The 4th layer, the 7th tier, as the top level of combat power. The 5th layer, the 8th tier, as the top level of combat power. The 6th layer, the 8th tier, as the top level of combat power. The 7th layer, the 9th tier, as the top level of combat power. The 8th layer, the 9th tier, as the top level of combat power. The 9th layer, the 10th tier, as the top level of combat power. For now, Luo Feng could only faintly detect its power up to the 9th layer. After that, everything was blurred, and he simply could not detect further. As for its strength, he could vaguely make a judgment based on its secret engravings. Of course, for now, Star Tower was fully capable of executing combat power at the 5th layer, which was the level at which Luo Feng managed to gain a complete comprehension of, after spending more than 600 eras comprehending it. From its strength, one could tell the difference between Star Tower and the other supreme true treasures. Star Tower's 4th layer was no different from the 4th layer of other supreme true treasures. However, its 6th layer was matched to the 5th layer of other supreme true treasures. Other supreme true treasures followed the sequence of the 7th tier, as the top level of combat power, 8th tier as the top level of combat power, 9th tier as the top level of combat power. But for Star Tower, the sequence was the 7th tier as the top level of combat power, 8th tier as the top level of combat power, 8th tier as the top level of combat power, 9th tier as the top level of combat power. Firstly, its power could be fully maximized. Secondly, every layer of secret engravings would represent one type of combat technique. The 4th layer and 5th layer meant that Luo Feng had mastered 2 more different techniques. For normal supreme true treasures like Black Prison Tower, I'm afraid they could only execute up to the 4th layer, Luo Feng thought. But for Star Tower, I can execute techniques up to the 4th and 5th layers. The 2 techniques that he was able to execute upon increasing his level made Luo Feng even more eager and interested in Star Tower. When my strength improves by another notch, I will be able to create a higher level blade technique, Luo Feng said to himself. By that time, I will be able to comprehend the 6th and 7th layers. While other universe supreme masters improved their strength by comprehending the next layer of secret engravings, Luo Feng improved his by comprehending 2 layers. In the blink of an eye, Luo Feng had been in Universe Boat for more than 400 years. Within Whirling Swamp Ocean in the internal region of Universe Boat, the greenish whirling swamp ocean was forming numerous gigantic whirlpools that were tearing everything apart. Within the whirling swamp ocean was a huge red reef with its largest diameter being around 900 million kilometers. On this red reef were 12 universe masters. All of them were staring hard into the distance. There were numerous whirlpools created by the whirling swamp ocean, and they all converged to give rise to an extremely large whirlpool. Far in the distance was the core of that extremely large whirlpool. Every time a treasure is born within the whirling swamp ocean, it will be a pinnacle true treasure at least. It might even be a pinnacle domain type, palace type, or many other kinds of precious true treasures. The 12 universe masters, who all came from different groups of top powers, were staring intensely as they waited in silence. The endless whirlpools of the whirling swamp ocean produced a gale that could sweep through everything in time and space. Comparatively, the whirlwind around the reef was weaker, yet it was more than enough to cause the universe masters on the reef to face difficulty in standing. Suddenly, a streak of light flew over at high speed from afar. The universe masters of various races on the reef were taken aback. It is the most dangerous moment of the whirling swamp ocean right now. Who would dare to hover in the skies above? Are they not worried about being swept down into it? It's Star Tower. The 9-story tower. It's Milky Way Horde Leader's Star Tower. No wonder he dared to barge his way in so directly. It's because he has a palace supreme true treasure. If I had one, I, too, would dare to charge my way straight into the deep region of the whirling swamp ocean. These universe masters all watched from afar in astonishment. Not a single one of them had the intention of escaping or hiding. When Luo Feng had just entered Universe Boat, the moment they saw him, they would most likely have scattered to escape for their dear lives. But now, everyone knew. Luo Feng indeed had the demeanor of a great being, he would never ever bully the weak. All this while, no one had ever heard of Luo Feng killing anyone. A Star Tower is taking a turn. It is flying toward us. It is coming over. All the universe masters on the reef, who were either plant life forms, energy life forms, or flesh and blood life forms, were instantly shocked. The next moment, they all started to panic. If this Milky Way horde leader had no designs on them, why would he deliberately make a turn and head in their direction? But now, even if they wanted to, it was too late to escape. Because he was already too close, the gale of whirling swamp ocean had reached an extremely high level. They did not even dare to fly in the skies above. A life form with 3 black spikes on its back yelled, "Milky Way horde leader, the true treasure that will be born from this whirling swamp ocean, we are willing to let you, Milky Way horde leader, have it." Every universe master there, all of whom were from different races, watched expectantly. Star Tower gradually reduced its speed and hovered at a particular spot above the reef. From one of the side doors at the base of Star Tower, a lone figure slowly flew out. Garbed in silver armor and with 4 silver wings outspread, the figure swept its gaze across the surroundings as he looked down. The other 11 universe masters here have no cause for worry. I am here, only because of him. Luo Feng's finger pointed down at one of the 12 universe masters. Instantly, the other 11 universe masters turned around to see who the unlucky fellow was. Their eyes fell upon the tall and lofty thunder giant, who carried lightning balls on his chest. His expression betrayed his fear as he looked around, then looked up at Luo Feng. His face was filled with panic and terror. This video will end here.